Well, hello, people. This is Joe Bright, and I'm your host of Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. Tonight, I just want to give you all a little something to think about. We live in quite really tumultuous times. Still, it hasn't changed. I know some of y'all can look back and think, oh, it was good here, it was good there. Yeah, we were asleep. Time to wake up. Anyway, Poetry Song Battle for Dominance, where I battle with the words in my head to the paper to you. These are all my thoughts. If you want to chime in, go right ahead. I'm on Spreaker.com at Joe's Poetry. Nope, that is not right. Okay, first of all, let me just get this straight. I have a website, and it's called Joe's Poetry, Excerpts from My Resume, and it's at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. And there you can check out everything that I do on my social media, with my books, with my poetry, with my interactive, everything. I personally give my website an A+ because it is completely interactive. And if you hear something on the show tonight that you really care for, let me know. The chat box is always open. Also, you can go on my website, and I have published my own poetry. It's all audio. You can also read it. You can watch it because I have a YouTube channel. And just make it your mantra, Pick the one you like and make it your mantra. Pick all of them. It's 99 cents each, and that's at mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. That's MOMMAYA.wixsite.com/website. So tonight, I wanted to give a little shout out to my girl KT. Miss you. But we all have to go our separate ways for a while. You never know. Me and KT might hook back up again for a little something, because I think we work really well together. But I have to do my thing, and my thing is poetry. And it's time that I got back into doing that. So with that, I'm just going to really give you all a little something to think about. And this first piece, I'm going to call it what it is. Was it really all going so well? Was it really going all so well? You were finally doing all those things that you thought you wanted to do. The mistress or master of your destiny. No one had control over your day. It was planned out to your specifications, desires, goals. Nothing happened that you didn't know about in your life. You made your own schedule, set, planned, and wrote the script of your day. Then you got sucker punched into thinking that you had a place in this world. You foolhardily believed that this was a race you could win, and that you had a dog in this fight, your 2 proverbial cents to put in and make a difference. You weren't alone. Even though you completely forgot that you didn't want anything to do with the fight, because the fight, the battle, the war wasn't for people like you. People who believe that if you play fair, play your cards right, don't cheat, be honest, never malign another person, step on someone else's throat to get ahead, or push aside the ideas, conceptions, and hard work of another to get ahead, that if you respect the boundaries of another, that you would do well. But that's not true. This world isn't for you to conquer or to claim. It already has its victors here. And they aren't about to give up the throne without a fight. They've claimed what they know are the best parts of this world, and they are not about to relinquish that power to you or me or anyone else. They have been grooming and molding and shaping their children for decades so they can hand that power and wealth over to them. And if I or you want a piece of that power or wealth, don't think it's going to be a fair fight. Because the powers that be have trained their heirs on how to wield, manipulate, and lord over others that power and wealth, so that one day all that power, wealth, that big dog in the fight, can be theirs. And their children have been fighting amongst themselves for all that power, all that wealth. Their servants, even the lowest of their ranks, have been salivating about that power, that wealth. Their servants, the undeserved privileged, who open and lock their doors and stand behind them in public, looking out for their well-being. Their servants who send their hard-earned money to their families, open 401ks and money market accounts so they can send their children to schools where the tuition is higher than your yearly salary. They're servants who make sure their friends get the best jobs, even at the lowest levels, because they hear privileged conversations. And their friends act like they're privileged because they were the first to get a job when no one else could. And they all become beholden to the privileged few, unaware that they're being used and stepped on. They don't really see that they're no better off than those of us who don't know the privileged few. They just get to hang around them sometimes. They don't have a dog in the fight either. The rest who have been used and misused, who have been put out and stepped on, made to feel less than themselves. Especially after we've all spent our entire lives reminding ourselves daily that we are somebody. Somebody with worth. Somebody with intelligence and sophistication. Somebody with the ability to stand up for ourselves and to stand with others for a righteous cause. We just want a change of power. To hands we think we can trust. But sometimes it's the same set of hands with a different label. And the same people in power still manage to make you feel like if you just hang in there, one day you too can have a dog in this fight. If you want to. Isn't that how it is, people? Sometimes you just want to have a dog in a fight. Or maybe, you just think, I deserve to have some say-so over it. Or maybe my 2 cents does matter. Girl, please. Or boy, or man, or woman, however you think you are, please. People only get involved with things when they have a dog in the fight. And I would think that today we all had a dog in the fight. Everybody had some skin in the game, all those little rhetorical things that we used to say all the time. I got some skin in the game, I'm going to get involved. And people are just afraid. And some people are just incredibly bold now. Lost a lot of people that I used to talk to because of the things that the way they are now. Quite frankly, I think it's better off that way. Because if you stick around with people who don't hold the same ideals, or at least are open to changing from the rhetoric that they believe, why are you talking to them? Why are you with them? Seriously. I'm trying to stay connected to some of the people, because, it's like the man said, oh, he's a nice guy. Yeah, but wait till you hear what he has to say. I personally was very insulted by one of my friends, who I thought was a really dear friend. She really insulted me by the things that came out of her mouth about how she felt about gays, homosexuals, and what she voted for number 45. I knew she was going to do it. I didn't think she was going to go through with it. And she emboldened herself to say some things to me that really hurt. I was like, wait a minute, chick. You do realize you're talking about people in my family. Because let me get this real clear with you all right? I'm Joe, and this is Poetry Song Battle for Dominance. So, I am an American, and I am a human being. But I also have African ancestry. Also have Mexican ancestry. Also have Native American ancestry. Also, I have family members who are Muslims. Yes, I am a Christian, and these days that can really go against you in this so-called country of Christians. And she decided to just go on and say how she felt about immigration and the wall being built and how Christians shouldn't have to deal with gays and lesbians as they come into their places of establishment. I'm sitting across the table from her, and she's telling me these things, and I'm looking her in the face going, do you realize everything that you just said was contrary to everything that's part of my life, the people I love and call family? And we went at it for a very long time. We went at it for a very long time. I was trying to make her understand that she had no right to sit up there and say those things, that she was in total agreement with it. Of course, if you know me, I said, oh, so you voted for the pussy grabber. That's just how I put it. Well, I don't believe everything that I hear. I said, apparently you do. You believe a whole lot of things. And we went at it. So she says, well, let's just agree to disagree. I'm like, no, I refuse to agree to disagree. You're wrong and I'm right. Well, I think that as Christians, I said, don't be throwing that up in my face, because as a Christian, you shouldn't be saying any of the things that you just said. If we put out all of them, if we put out everybody that we don't like in this country simply because they don't, some totality of it all is they're not Christians. They're not white like them. They're not legal. Do you realize how many people be left in this country that care about anything? Very few. And the palette would be one shade. And everybody that didn't agree with them, they used to say communism was something that we didn't want, but I promise you, sometimes it just feels like that's exactly where this country is leaning toward. The ugly side of communism that they think is going to be a part of this world. But we already have our own ugly side of life here. We don't have to start thinking of other stuff. We don't. I have to play this one right here, this one piece right here, because, we all think that we can read people, especially if you've known them for a long time. Man, was I wrong. I'm at a point where I question my ability to read people. Yeah, I know I said I could, but people change. The ones that come near seem like the ones I would trust. The ones who said they had my back, I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. I'm at a point where I question my ability to discern the right from the wrong. And before, yeah, it was easy because we were young. Everyone had the same ideals. We were all in the same fight, had the same battles and strategies. The outcome was what we all wanted. But now the war is different. It's the same war with the same soldiers fighting on the same front, and some have the same tattered uniforms, and they chant the same battle cry, and I attend the same rallies with the same people. But it's different now. It's too many skirmishes, too many deaths, too many walking wounded who remember when we stood up for them in the fray, in the heat of the battle, when all seemed lost, and they needed someone to reach out and pull them out of the ditch and cover them with their bodies while the bullets flew overhead. And all they knew was there was noise and somehow it's not affecting them because someone covered them with their blood and they emerged victorious. And they're different now. And I'm different now. But the war rages on and the battles are held on the field of death and the bodies pile up in numbers staggering, sublime. And we stop counting them because we have to soldier on until the war is won. We're all different now. There are times when I want to check out. And it seems like there's no end to the war. There are no more victories. The soldiers are tired, wearied, and worn. The bullets still fly. The death toll still rises. Not as much as you would think anymore. And the enemy, he doesn't care. And I don't know who he is anymore. Yeah. But you know what? We live right next door to each other all the time. And that conversation that I had with my girl, I was like dumbfounded and shocked. She was emboldened to say some really hateful things. And hey, guess what? The thing that blew me away so much was she thought that she had a right to sit there and say those things to me. And I know some of y'all who know me think, I wonder who that is. Not a friend of mine anymore. She doesn't act like she's a friend of mine anymore. I tried to get back with her and talk with her, but she's not responding. And quite frankly, a lot of the people who have voted for number 45, are responding. They need to shut up. They really do. So I'm looking through the headlines, and there's so much stuff going on. I mean, the current government is so messed up. The news media is using it as entertainment almost. The entertainment media is using it as news. It's just, can you imagine having a government that is an administration that is just so over the top ridiculously that the news media, they're hounding the White House because they want to know what new stupid thing the number 45 is going to say. How ignorant can anybody be of how ignorant they are on what they talk about? I'm not sure. I don't really know what presidents prior to Reagan. I don't even remember Reagan, but I know he was president. And did I vote? I think I voted. I'm not sure. Maybe I did. I think I did. I'm not sure. I didn't vote for Reagan, but I did. I was at voting age at that time. And so any presidents prior to him, I don't really have a clear memory of. But apparently, there are a lot of people in this country, and I'm going to call them who they are. They're white racists. And they want to go back to that life where is stepping on the necks of other people to get ahead. And that's basically what they want to do. They don't really care. But I was having this conversation with my son, and, I've always said that these people are circling the drain. You want to drain the swamp? Go right ahead. They're in it. Let's drain the swamp. Let's flush them real good and then be done with it. Because, this country has been in battle for freedom and democracy for so very long. And yeah, we are a young country. We really are. 1776 is not that long ago when you think about how old countries are in Europe, Africa, Australia. They have long histories. And I think ours, when you think about it, it's just the worst. These people who hate you because of the color of your skin, your religious denomination, the way you speak, the way you dress, they're only happy if, now I'm going to just see if I can put this in plain English. They will be happy if everybody had the same haircut, wore the same beige and blue clothes, the same ugly flat shoes, the same, monochromatic lifestyle across the board. And I'm not against having a manicured lawn and nice, and everybody looking clean cut, but everybody has to think the same way, be the same way, talk the same way. And that is it's insane. It's insane for anybody to want life to be like that. It's insane. I just have a real problem with that. And I feel sorry for all black people who think that for any reason that this president and his administration is going to do anything for them. They are merely pawns. That's all. They're pawns. In the grand scheme of things, they don't do nothing but, see that black face in the crowd. That's all they are. They just a black face in the crowd so that he can say, oh, there's my African American. There's my African American. We don't want to be just a dark face in the crowd. You shouldn't want that. And for women to think that it's okay to say anything nice about this guy, it's disgusting. Truly is. Now, the one person in the administration that I want to say I feel sorry for him. I know he's an intelligent person because he's a surgeon. Ben Carson. Please don't call him a house Negro. Don't do that. But at the same time, he is not the darkest crayon. He ain't the smartest crayon. But he's an intelligent person. He ran for president. He didn't get into the primaries. He didn't make it past the primaries, but many of them didn't. We cast aspersions upon each other, and we don't realize how hurtful that is. I think that the fact that he accepted a position to be the head of HUD, Housing, Urban, and Development. This man, honestly, it's like Betty DeVos. He has no idea what housing and urban development is. And she has no idea what education is for anybody. Anybody. I mean, and they're just cutting money out of programs left and right and right and left. And for me, it's like I'm listening and I'm looking and I'm going, my goodness, we spent the last, prior to this year, 8 years, trying to bring this country together in a way that everybody got a piece of something. And we could still have been in a depression. President Obama could have wound up being a horrible president, but he wasn't. And he spoke up for of so many people. And I know there's a lot of people out there right now going, I wish I hadn't have voted for this man, but you know what? It's too late. He's in office, and it doesn't look like they're going to impeach him. Well, we can sign all the petitions we want. And trust me, I've signed like 5 or 6 so far. And I've called my congressman, and I'm making my voice heard. But if enough of us don't get up and do something to make our voices heard, saying that we don't appreciate the way this administration is treating the people in this country, they're going to keep them. They might keep them anyway. It's a power grab kind of thing. It is, trust me. It's all about power, isn't it always? I'm gonna play you this one piece right here. It's called "Don't You Want to Be Impressed?" Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you take a look at the day, at the end of the day, after you turn off the lights, just before you close your eyes, just before you scoot down underneath the sheets and find that perfect spot for your head and your pillow, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you step out on faith and take that leap into the unknown, when you know that rejection is far more likely than acceptance. I mean, after you put yourself on a tightrope of hope and you just have a string of support, but you persevere in the face of adversity, don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When the right thing to do was not the popular thing to do. When you want to do the popular thing, but it's not the wrong thing. I mean, it's the wrong thing, but it's not the wrong thing. And you know it's the wrong thing, but it's the thing that will make you popular. Don't you want to be impressed? I want to be impressed. When you wake up tomorrow and yesterday wasn't as bad as you thought it was, and that if you can make it through today, doing what you're supposed to do, only doing it better than yesterday, because you weren't too sure of yesterday, but today is looking pretty good. And if you can get through today after yesterday, tomorrow will be a breeze. Don't you want to be impressed? I know I want to be impressed. Okay, so getting back to Ben Carson. He wants to embrace being called a house Negro. Why? That's like the left wanting to embrace, what's that? The snowflakes. You think that because you embrace something that somehow you can flip it around and make it work to your benefit. I don't think you understand what it means to be called a house Negro. And like I said, y'all, he's an intelligent human being. The man is a surgeon. He's a politician. He's a surgeon. But I think he lacks the ability to understand that some words are defaming to our character as a whole. When he starts accepting being called a house Negro and says, house Negroes stand up, what? And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to read more about what this is. But the fact of the matter is, these two words are put together and they're being said out in public again. Do we get that part? They're saying house Negro. How long before we hear the other N word that we know we don't want to say? We don't like saying it. I personally don't like saying it. I mean, it slips out because, I'm black. I can slip out and say it in a group full of black folks and they'll understand what I'm saying. But white people can't do that. I don't care if you was raised in a house with black people. If you white, you cannot stand in the middle of a crowd and use the N word. You just can't do it. So why should any of us use it? It shouldn't be used. But that's the privilege of being the only privilege I can think of. If you can think of some more reasons or privileges of being black, like being able to use the N word, saying nigger anytime you feel like it. I mean, we go nigger, 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 nigger all day long to each other. And we're not offended. Some of us really understand it. It's offensive, to be sure. but we shouldn't use that word. But we are not offended by each other unless we're in some kind of heated argument. And even then, it's like, oh, you gonna call me that? But if a white person uses it, and it doesn't matter the context, they may be trying to get a point across. And they've been using that word a lot in movies in the past year or so. And they will, all of a sudden it's hate speech. It's a hate crime. They're racist. We need to change the way that we communicate with each other. Do not accept and don't even try to flip the script of being called a house Negro ever. John Mayer got all the way tore up. He had his ass handed to him when he said he was one. Because you just don't get it. See, y'all, if you have to understand slavery in its context. The whole thing about being not just a slave, because there were other kinds of slaves in this country, but when you were a black slave, a Negro slave, that's a whole nother ball game of how we were treated and how our lives were. Have you seen Nate Turner? You should. Because we were pets, we were property. Everything that we did that was good and useful and could, make the master some money, he took it and called it his own. Our history is filled with that. We lost the ability to say anything in public. And the white people in this country and other nations, they, the ones that wanted to side with us, they were burned and they were put in jail and they were beaten. Some were hanged. So, our history in our country is full of it. So I think the last thing we need to worry about, and I'm dovetailing back around to my original statement, is worry about becoming communists. Because trust me, if we all became communists, then what would happen to the Republicans and the Democrats, the liberals and the progressives? There's the communication, the war of words. I thought we would know better by now, but I guess we don't. We don't know. We should, but we don't. So, and speaking of war of words, I got something for you. Listen to this. It's called I Am Affected. I am affected by your smile. Witty and thoughtful, deceiving and beguiling, amorous and suspicious. Your impressive giving nature that is you. I am affected by your posture. Sitting up straight, back pressed firmly against the cushion, eyes forward, listening intently, hanging on my every word, poised for the confrontation destined to come. I am affected by your thoughts, summations and suppositions wound tightly together by a single strand of perception, by your tomes on your shelves, stacked neatly, read thoroughly. I am affected by your perceptions, the way you process information and extricate simplistic meaning from an enigma that is merely life. I am deeply affected by you, what you are, what you will be, what you have become. I want us to become so affected by the way things are going that we all just come out from behind your closed doors and just stand. And because we are more than what we see on television, we are more than these protests. We are more than these war of words that insult each other across the table. We are so much more. And there is more of us than them. There really is. And so, since they won't go away, we need to just keep standing in their face and telling them we won't go away either. Why should we? We deserve to be here. We did all the work. We really did. We did all the work. And more of us have been killed in this country than anywhere in the world. Our history is fraught with that kind of violence, murder. And we have to live with that. We live with that history. That's our history. And the people who did it, the white people who got together and burned our homes and hung our sons, and today now they think that they can do that again. But the reality is our sons and our daughters, they get put in prison on false allegations. And every time we try to step up and become something better than what we are, we get squashed down. But we get right back up because it's innately in us to be stronger than who we are. And we're stronger together than we are apart. I was looking at New Era Detroit and New Era Chicago. I saw this video that they had up back in April. They did a cleanup, a literal cleanup of the Inglewood neighborhood in Chicago on the south side. It was over 100 people, way more. And they walked up and down the street with garbage bags, and they were cleaning up their neighborhood, knocking on doors and letting people know who they were, having them, sign these forms. I'm not sure what the forms were, but they were shouting affirmations of black love, black unity, black power. And so they're just walking up and down the street cleaning. Did they need a permit for that? Probably. Did they get one? Probably. Because otherwise, why have an organization and not follow the law? So they're going up and down their neighborhood and they're knocking on doors. And, there's this video on my timeline. You can go to Johanna Bright on Facebook. I can't find the source of the video, but you can also go to New Era Detroit or New Era Chicago. They're on Facebook as well. And so at the end of their walk and cleanup, when they had children had looked like they had to be 7, 8, 9 years old, some of them. Moms, daughters. And it was in April of this year, 2017. And the police followed them the entire way. And when they were done, they had themselves a little rally, and they had more affirmations and how they were going to continue to try to get the community back together and get the crime and keep it clean. As he was talking, if I'm watching this video, I'm dumbfounded. The video is about 30 minutes long, and it's very hard to watch, but you have to watch it in its entirety. New Era Detroit, New Era Chicago. As they were rounding it up, finishing it, they had the garbage bags, they were cleaned up. 3 police cars pulled up, and they were being ordered to get off the street. And they got off the street, and they were on the sidewalk. And the police were picking a fight with them. The police picked a fight. I believe it was a police sergeant. It's a tall white guy, and they were yelling at these people, telling them they had to disperse and all that. They were getting ready to disperse anyway, but you're being confronted by somebody. You're like, what did we do wrong? We're cleaning up our neighborhood. Isn't that what you all people keep telling us that we should do? We should clean up our neighborhood. We should get together and be more than what the media shows you that we are. Well, we are. We are far more than what the media shows us that we are. So the upshot of it is this one police officer, he seemed like he was an authority figure. He was wearing stripes. And he reached in and he grabbed someone in the crowd right off the front line. And it started. And the next thing you know, it was a riot. And more police cars showed up. And the problem is that maybe the initial policemen who were there didn't really understand what was going on because there was no violence, no riot at the time. But the cars that showed up after that didn't have a clue about what was going on. And they just jumped out of their cars and started beating up black folks. See, that's what happens. Everybody thinks that we're not trying. We really want to say, fuck you, why do you care? We are trying, but every time we try, somebody with a little authority messes it up for us. I got a couple more I want to play for you. And this one is called A Passionate Plea. This is a passionate plea for the sake of others. Because it seems when I play it for myself, from the depths of my soul, as I was reaching out and up from the abyss of my life that was dragging me down, it felt as if no one could hear my silent screams for help. Screams so loud and panicked it tore my vocal cords into splinters and wrenched my throat until the pain felt like sandpaper against a cement wall, only no one could hear it. Until one day, as I was about to give up, give in, and claim that I was defeated, I was saved. And my saving didn't just happen by one day as I continued my rants and ravings, as I cursed and clawed, as drool drizzled down my chin, as my eyes were dry, parched of moisture, no longer shedding tears, but felt like steel pads. As I blinked away the day and cowered from the night, no, my Savior was there the entire time. On those days when I knew that I was going to have to make some one more devastating decision, but it's going to be the last, I swear, I won't have to do this again decision. My Savior was right there. And when I was tearing to shreds the last vestiges of hope that I had, because there wasn't enough nickels or dimes or pesos coming my way, and I just was going down that dark and dismal tunnel because I didn't care if there was a light at the end. And just when I was signing off and saying my goodbyes, I was through yelling and fighting, debating, procrastinating, and pontificating. There he was. And I said I wasn't going to plead anymore. I knew what I'd done. I wasn't proud of it. And if I had to do it again, well, I just have to cross that bridge, wouldn't I? But I know in the back of my mind, I was still crying out for help. I was still hoping on hope that help would come. And even though I'd committed myself to the inevitable, I'd set myself on a course of no return. But he was right there, all along. He was actually waiting for me to stop all the screaming, yelling, and confusion I was putting myself through. And when that happened, there he was. His hand was out, and his arms were around me, and I was gathered into them like a baby. And I cried the cleansing cry of a lost soul who just wanted somebody to listen. I realized that had I not stopped and taken stock of myself, my life, my present, what I was about to embark upon, I would never have heard him. So I make this passionate plea to you. You who seem to believe that there is no way out, no one person who will come to your aid, hold your hand, see you through, stand by your side, give you a shoulder to cry on, listen when you're down, celebrate with you when all is well, be in the midst, or just be quiet and let you know that there's just where you want them to be when you need assurance. I have a Savior. He wants to be yours too.
That's that's one of my favorites. I have to admit. I'm gonna take y'all out with this one piece that I call "White Privilege, Black History." I'm Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD Battle for Dominance. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Go to my Facebook page at my resume, Joe's Poetry, excerpts from my resume. Also, go to mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. And you can purchase for 99 cents each your favorite track of my poetry and make it your mantra. Enjoy the journey with me, people. I'm changing the world one line at a time. And here we are. Good night. White privilege, black history. See, this is my problem with all these fabulous, amazing, and wonderful protests and gatherings. All the nations that have come together to help the indigenous people to keep big corporations from drilling for oil on their native land and sacred burial grounds. We want to keep them from destroying the ecosystem for what could possibly be 100 generations. It's so amazing how every nation came together again and protested in every airport in the country, and how ride sharing came to a halt. The workers just refused to work, and the CEO of the company donated $1 million to the cause. I mean, just thinking about the unfathomable amount of human beings around the world that came together for the Women's March, it blows me away. Even the press and all the mass media are in one accord against the orange one because their integrity is in question, as if it wasn't before. Every person I know has an opinion of outrage and disgust, everyone agreeing to that moral outrage because of the actions of the current administration. See, I can call them that at least. But what about us, the disenfranchised black people of this country? We who protested and cried out for help when Trayvon and Michael and Eric and dozens more black men were murdered in their own neighborhoods through the abuse of authority in the police force in this country. Where was the moral outrage of all the nations in this country then? Where were the veterans and the women's rights groups and the Muslims and the immigrants who are being rounded up and told they have to leave now? Where are the Mexicans who are looking at a possible wall built to keep them out of this country? I want to laugh at that, but I won't. Where are the indigenous people? All 60 nations. The press was there because there was a story to be told and sold to get shares on the open market. Where were the judges and politicians making stands and speeches and proclamations overturning unjust and poor decisions, demanding investigations into each and every one of the officers involved, changing the laws? They have that authority. You looked at us as we marched and yelled in righteous indignation, crying out for justice, begging to be seen and heard by deaf ears. And there was a dead silence for many of our non-black communities. While I really do understand that many of you do agree that the treatment of my people has been deplorable, disgusting, and inhumane, why didn't you come out in droves and become that protective shield that everyone else has with your white privilege? You know, if you just all showed up, that protest would have been different. But you didn't. Black history tells the truth, just not as much as yours. Black Lives Matter, the social activism group, has been petitioned to the Senate to be designated as a terrorist group. Whom did we terrorize? When was your way of life in jeopardy? Were you afraid we would march right up to your doorstep and shine a light on your white privilege? Did you think that the financial value of your home would decrease if you showed up? Did you think that your precious children, and they are, would see the evil underbelly of racism that is the beast that devours this country? Progressives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, you all say all lives matter, and they do. Mine just matters less than yours. And if you think I'm blowing smoke up your ass or whining, there's your proof right there about how you really feel. Come out from behind your doors and windows. Stop using your children as an excuse for not showing up. We know it's dangerous undertaking to stand side by us. We know because we're out there in the underbelly of the beast of hatred all the time. We are the disenfranchised. I know you're afraid that the police will not see your white privilege and shoot you too, but this is what we face every day. Do I have to remind you of the bodies hung on trees, metaphorically called strange fruit? We are that strange fruit. Do I have to continue to draw your attention to the young black men burned on a cross and laid on a heap of smoldering wood while white privilege stands around gawking at him, proud of what they have done? Do I have to show you Philip Castile dying from a gunshot wound on a social media video from a police officer who saw him as a threat to society and not a father of the child in the back seat or the mother in the front seat behind the wheel begging him to stay alive through the mere virtue of his own will? He died anyway, and the wife, she was handcuffed, her child taken from her temporarily. However, we are called terrorists, and you buy into it. Why? What terrors in the night have we brought upon you? And do you lay awake at night thinking, I could just join in that march, make a difference? But the police might not see my white privilege. All they may see is, what? Human beings standing for the rights of other human beings. You have the power to make the powers that be see me as a human being. You have the power to turn the tide of racism to love and acceptance of your fellow man. You used it on the righteous indignation you felt when immigrants were banned from our country. You felt it when you heard a wall was being built to keep out our southern brothers from another mother. You felt it when the rights of women were being stepped on for the umpteenth time in the greatest march in the history of protest. But when we get together to protest the hypocrisy of our government, the unjust treatment of our people, the genocide of our nation, you go stone cold silent. We continue to cry out for help for all the unjust, discriminatory, and outright hateful actions against us. And you know that they are. But you won't stand with us.